not one time in my career has anybody asked me for my degree. And not one time in my career have I asked anybody else for their degree. The portfolio that you stand upon is 100% what is going to get you jobs as a filmmaker. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Rough Cut Club. I am your host, Joey Nicotra, the infamous, the one, the only, here with my good friend, colleague, business partner, Mr. Shane Reitzhammer. What's up, brother?
What's up, buddy? What's up?
Man, I am stoked for today's episode. We are going to ruffle a couple of feathers, but hopefully give some insight and guidance to people thinking of going to film school.
Little trip down memory lane here.
Or possibly they are already in film school, and this is directly applicable to you. But we are going to be talking today about if film school is worth it in our opinion.
Yeah, this is
Stoked?
a good one. Stoked. I'm a little nervous. I've got a lot for both sides. So,
Yeah.
Man, I'm ready to dive in.
Yep. So just a little bit of backstory. I graduated in the year 2017 from the University of North Texas's film program. I was the first year that they changed their title from radio, television, video, and film to media arts, which is a much cleaner name.
Yeah, I'm super jealous. I also graduated from UNT in 2009. Should have been, I'm giving away my age here, should have been 2006. I took a couple of victory laps.
And what does a victory lap mean for those that don't know?
Disclaimer. And I worked my way through college, which I think you did as well. And so, but there were definitely some semesters that I could have applied more credits.
Academic focus.
Yeah. So, when you decide to take only 9 credit hours or 6 credit hours in a semester, you're going to extend your stay at the university.
Yeah.
But yeah, graduated 2009. It was a radio and television and film. So RTVF.
Radio,
degree.
television, video, and film. Yep. It's a mouthful for sure. As someone who, we both went to the same school. We went through basically the same program, but almost a decade apart. And so the program isn't going to be like apples to apples per se, but in your experience at the time, you can speak to, and I'll speak to mine, 6 years now out of film school or something like that. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about at the beginning, in my opinion, are some of the shortcomings of film school, and just kind of touch on some of the things that from memory I remember leaving feeling kind of like bummed about and whatnot. And so I think that for me, just diving right in, the film program felt very focused on the theory of film and less on like the actual hands-on application for film. Now I remember having to do like a lot of, watch like Citizen Kane and all these movies from like the 50s and 60s and like appreciate the early days of cinema and, watching Dancing in the Rain and, what's the
Fred Astaire.
Like Gene Kelly.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain, that's the one. And so like and don't get me wrong, these are like classic films that I'm glad that I've watched. But I remember like they were so focused on like the rise of cinema and the theory of cinema and like the early days and the history that it was less focused on where we're currently at today and like practical, like movies that are coming out today and keeping up with the times. Like we didn't watch anything in like the last decade that had come out. It was all stuff from like early 2000s and below. You know what I mean? Like that for me was like, man, why? Like this is dated already.
That's true. I had a similar experience. Even with all the years apart.
Right.
But, I actually really enjoyed the theory part of watching some of these old films and understanding, auteurism and mise en scene and
film noir.
Yeah. And and how, the people
Totally.
had done it back in the day. But I agree with you though. Now that I'm thinking about it, we didn't watch anything that was
Yeah.
current.
No. And I will say, like, on that same vein, like, there is something to be said about having a broader knowledge and appreciation for, like, where we started, where we're at, the history of it. And I'm glad that I have some of that, but I do wish that it could have been spread out a little bit more, where it was like, hey, you have your film history, and a lot of those are like weed out courses, you know what I'm saying? Or like prereq courses. But then once you actually get into your junior senior year, like, be more focused and intentional with, like, what is going to set you up for success in today's market. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, man, the pre classes, man, this was a gripe that I
Yeah.
had. Um, Even with, and maybe it's changed. I went to school a long time
Right.
ago, but I couldn't even touch the RTVF department
Mm.
until I had completed some of these classes and
Yeah.
courses. And so I actually did a lot of community college. I did 2 years of community college in Houston
Yeah.
before I had moved to Denton
Yeah.
and went to UNT. And I was excited because I was like, look, I got all that junk out of the way,
Hmm.
right? And I could just dive right in. No, there was still some of these classes. And in fact, it in my time, there was 3 classes that were the gateway to
Yeah.
RTVF. And those would fill up because there was only so
Right.
many
They were massive
seats.
classes, but they would weed everyone out.
And so there was it was, it was good because a lot of people did, oh, I want to be in film. I want to be a director or a
Right.
DP or whatever, and so there was like just this flow of people, just infatuated with media and film in general. I like watching movies. I think I can make them, right? And so it was great. It was a good idea, I think, to some extent, but partly my delay was I couldn't get into those classes. So
Mm.
I would wake up at 7 a.m. or whatever it was, get online and try to register for the class.
They're already
They were
full.
already booked up.
Yeah.
It's like trying to buy a Taylor Swift ticket, man. You got to be the first one on the Ticketmaster, right? So, that is actually one of the victory laps that I took. I couldn't get into some of those 3 classes, the gateway classes, and I actually waited outside the door, right? So that
Whoa.
was a thing during that time was you could wait outside the door, and
If someone
after
didn't show up, you could
after
steal their
10
place.
minutes, I think it
Yeah.
was, then you could go in. And I got into one of my classes by doing that
Wow.
because I
That's
was so
awesome.
frustrated missing the registration period, like, twice on one of them. And so I waited outside the classroom. And it was funny too, because, if you did register for the class, you
Yeah.
made sure you were on time.
Yeah.
Because if you were 10 minutes late, you got bumped from that
Yep.
class.
Yep.
And it was like, you snooze, you lose, bro.
Yeah.
Don't sleep in on that day.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. One of the other things with the curriculum, in my opinion, is that, and I think this is with any liberal arts education, like liberal arts meaning like a 4-year university instead of like a 2.5-year vocational art school, is that the whole concept is like this broad knowledge of everything. And so you leave with this like widespread understanding of very little from a depth standpoint, but tons from a width standpoint. And so you get this widespread knowledge that is surface level, where you barely get into any of it. You know what I mean? So going back for me, I would have appreciated a much more concentrated focus going deep to where I actually left school prepared for the industry. And I can't say that I got that from college. The only reason that I got prepared for the industry is by jumping into the industry and having mentors and other people that could help guide me, or just trial and error and trial through fire. You know what I mean?
I agree too. I think you're right. A shortcoming of it is a very broad, overall high concept knowledge, right?
Right.
And so I do remember graduating and feeling like, well, I mean, we made a couple of class projects, individual projects.
Right.
There was some hands-on experience, but I'm expecting to have made a film or a short
Right,
film or something that I
right.
can really stand on or showcase. And so it was great to get some of those, overall theory and knowledge of the industry.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like a vocational school would have
Mhm.
probably landed me right into a position or a
Yeah.
job. Now, 2009 was totally different from
Right.
2017. I think we talked about this in another
Totally.
podcast. When I graduated, there wasn't a job. It was, go to LA, go to New York, or go to TV in
Yeah.
the Dallas market. There was, a handful of production, marketing companies. I mean, there were plenty, but there were nothing like today, where
Right.
when you graduate, you can be a freelancer, right?
Totally.
That wasn't a thing in 2009, to my knowledge, on the level
Not to the degree it's at
not to the
now.
level it is now. Yeah, there are definitely people doing it, obviously, but
Sure.
now there's tons of production companies and marketing agencies, and now you're seeing companies hire in-house
Mhm.
videographers or video producers, right? So, before that wasn't really a thing. And so, there still is opportunity, but when you graduate and you have this broader knowledge, you have to supplement, right?
Right.
And so you supplement, and I think we can talk about things that we did. We put in the reps,
Yeah.
right? You put in the practice, whether it's on personal projects or low paying
Right.
gigs, getting mentors.
Yep.
And so I do agree with you there. Like, I love the classes where I'm like, oh, I am in the recording studio. I didn't want to do radio,
Yeah.
right?
I didn't
And
either.
that was that was another thing. Again, it wasn't as focused as I wanted to
Right.
be. I was like, oh, I don't want to do radio. I don't really want to do TV. It's kind of fun to be in the studio. I really want to do film.
100%.
The cool thing I will say is that when I went to film school, so like a pro for the broadness of it. When I went to film school, I was thinking, I'm going to be a auteur. I'm going to be a creative,
Yeah.
Scorsese, Robert Rodriguez, Tarantino. I want to
Yep.
make like artsy action films, right? And then I took a class. I signed up for it. It was like I needed additional credits, and it was one of those not electives, but additional courses that didn't even have a title on it. I
Yeah.
just signed up for the credits.
Yeah.
Come to find out, it was an international documentary class taught by Professor Tanya Khalif. I think she is still
Oh,
there.
yeah. I had her.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Shout out.
Khalif.
Khalif. Yeah. And so she that blew my mind, and it
Yeah.
totally changed my what I thought was my trajectory. I
Right.
decided that documentaries was such a pure form of
Yep.
storytelling, and I fell in love with that. And I ended up in my career doing an international documentary and choosing that over a full time paying job, well paying job.
Yeah.
And I took the chance, that I kind of equate it back to having a broad knowledge of
Mhm.
an exposure, right? That I
Right.
probably wouldn't if I saw that class and knew what it was, I probably wouldn't have signed up
Right.
for it. So I think that was definitely driven for a
Yeah.
reason. So that's one plus. With the broad education, you will discover new things about yourself and about the industry that you may not know is actually your path or part of your process. So I do have to say, as much as I wanted it to be more refined, that broad overview definitely changed my career.
Yeah. And that's kind of where like this whole like podcast, like, is film school worth it to you?
Mm.
Right? Like, everyone listening to this is going to be in a different standpoint, different place, have different amounts of clarity in terms of what direction they want to go to as a filmmaker. Like, a filmmaker means so many different things. And if you don't have clarity that you're like, I want to be a director and that's all I want to do, or I want to be a DP or whatever it is, having a little bit of experience switching in a television broadcast room, or working in radio in a studio and doing all these different things, you may find that your passion was one of those things when you thought you were going to school for this.
Yeah.
And so I think that, to your point, I'm grateful for the broad knowledge that I got. But I also, on the same vein, wish that I had more of a concentration in just being a filmmaker. You know what I mean?
I agree. At UNT, if you're listening, maybe you can make like different tracks within the media.
100%,
Right,
dude.
if it's like,
100%.
I know that I want to be a director or a DP or an editor, and kind of have more focused,
Right.
targeted classes. And I think that's where you go to vocational. That's the thing where
Absolutely.
it's like 2 years, you're super deep in production, right?
Yeah.
It's you're learning lighting, you're learning camera.
It's 2.5 years of focused work and like very few other outside classes. And those other outside classes are not, like you're glad that you took them because it helps you probably in that, know more about the field that you're actually getting into. Like knowing a little bit about audio will help you as a filmmaker
Mm,
and vice
mm,
versa.
yeah.
Knowing a little bit about how filmmaking works will help you if you're in audio or
Mm.
something to that effect. So,
I got to share this story because I
yeah.
remember, another shortcoming, and I think you were saying, feeling prepared, right? Because it was
Yeah.
abroad. When I was graduating in '09, I took it was media business something. It's been a while,
Yeah.
but Dr. A or Dr. Alberon, awesome
It's a
professor. I
cool
think,
last name.
yeah, yeah. He said if you couldn't pronounce it, just call him Dr. A. Don't butcher
Nice
it.
guy.
So that's why I started with Dr. A. I had to remember how to say Alberon the correct way. Um, great professor. But in his class, one, I love the business. That was something that was interesting,
Yeah.
especially later to create Cinema Story the
Show
next year,
business.
is learning the business of media. And that was such a cool class that I would, I wouldn't have,
Right.
again, like I probably wouldn't have got that at vocational. I wouldn't have signed up for it, but it was another one of those things where I need to complete the
Yeah.
credits and it was that or something else. And this one sounded better. I like the idea of entrepreneurship and business and understanding that
Yeah.
side of it, which came into play with Cinema Story, right? Well, in class, he says, hey, raise your hand if you're a senior. And so we're raising our hands. He said, okay, well, stats show that only 10% of you are going to be in the industry
Mm.
after graduation. And like, talk about a mood shift in the room. And it was crushing. But at the same time, there's multiple types of different people, but I'm one of those people that go, oh, but that's going to be
Yep.
me. I'm going to be
Yeah.
in that 10%, right?
Absolutely.
And
I like when I hear that. So it gives
right.
me like a bar to rise up
And
to.
I'm sure that's the reason
Personality
he
type
shared
thing.
it.
Yeah.
He's like, look, you're going to have to work hard to be in this industry and you're going to have to want it. And so that was inspiring for me, but stats are stats, they're facts,
Right.
right? And so hearing that, it's crazy to think that so many people, and I do know a lot of my classmates that got a degree in RTVF and
They're
they're
no
working
longer.
sales
Yep.
or they're doing something different,
Totally
right?
different. Yep.
And I mean, to be honest, when I graduated, the same thing. I kept working my night job,
Yeah.
my 9 to 5 bartending job that was helping pay the
Yeah.
college bills. And I was kind of like, man, am I ever going to be in the industry? Because I have this degree, but again, my options were limited, or at least
Right.
I thought they were at the time. So some of those broader classes ended up being really good.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Like, if I had have, can we change that stat?
Yeah.
Right? Can we change that stat by having a fast track? Like, hey, I know I want to be a DP. You've kind of weeded me out in these first, year,
Right.
and I've really found that my passion is this. Where's the lighting classes?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't learn any
Dude,
lighting in
I
film school.
I had my 4-year film degree consisted of 1 hour class day where they taught us 3-point lighting, key light, fill light, backlight, and that was my university education in cinematic lighting. Like we were tested on like, oh, what is low key lighting? What is high key lighting? And these different like types of styles, but we only got 1 class day of a key light, fill light, and a backlight. That was it. That was our lighting, my university lighting degree.
Yeah, UNT, we love you. We got to do better on the lighting.
Dang,
and I'm
come
sure
on.
hopefully it's changed. I mean, it's maybe it's different. Oh, actually, we have an intern in the studio that is going to UNT, and he nodded no, it is still the same.
Yeah,
So
UNT, we need a full lighting course, and then we need an advanced lighting course, and we need tools, access to lights and 8x and different rags and different cutters and everything, barn door. Like we need We need to learn how to shoot in mixed light conditions with windows and corporate settings and daylight. We need the answers, UNT. Where are you?
Hey, I will say something really cool, and I know most film schools do this, but having a equipment rental, like
Yeah.
being able to, all right, your assignment, you got to shoot
Yeah.
this project, go to the equipment room, rent out the gear, and that was really cool. Of course, again, back when I was in film
Right.
school, it was mini DV.
Right.
Like when I heard you, I think when you graduated, they had red cameras.
So that was the thing. Like the equipment rental like is a huge plus to going to film school, because if you don't have
Yes.
enough money to invest in gear, granted you're paying like $40,000-$50,000 for an education that could go into a really nice setup, but
we already know which way you're leaning with this.
but granted, when you're going, maybe you're going on scholarship, whatever. For me, that was the case. And so, like my university degree, I actually made money going to, which is the only reason it kept me there. And so I didn't pay any money to go get my degree, which is cool. But going back to the rental piece, having access to all of these different tools that, one, you may not even know exist, right? And school is going to help set you up for success and get you the tools that you need, and give you tools that you can't, afford to do on your own at the time. But for me, man, that they were dated. They were dated tools even at the time, and they had a red camera in-house, but it was only for grad students. So you had to be working on your master's degree in order to even touch that camera, which is like an industry level cinema camera. And instead they had us shooting on like these old dinosaur cameras that were totally outdated. And it's like, oh yeah, this is once upon a time a cinema camera, but what the industry is shooting on right now, that's only for people who are going on the 6-year program.
Right. Pay a little more and you get to play with the red cameras. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough, man. I do remember that. I don't remember the camera at the time, but there was one that was like off limits for us too. And then we could do the other ones. And then when you got out into the industry, you never saw those cameras. You never used them. And so that was it's a great idea, but the gear has to be constantly updated and accessible, because that way when these students graduate, they're like, when we hire a DP or crew an AC for a project, I'm like, okay, what cameras, what exact cameras?
Yeah.
Not just, oh yeah, I've worked on a red. I want to know exact camera models and build outs that you've worked on, so that I can know your experience level for a set, right? And so having that access, man, is awesome.
Yeah.
But the gear's got to be up to date.
And this was something that, to my knowledge, was the case, and Noah back there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there weren't a lot of lens choices for us to use. They're all like ones that are almost like built into like the cameras, like the old like cinema cameras that have like these 9 to 190 millimeter like lenses or whatever built in. And we didn't have lenses to even swap. Like we never learned how to put a lens on. The lenses were on our camera already. And it's like that level of, just that lack of education in terms of how to handle a lens. You know what I mean? Like nobody ever put a lens on in film school.
Right.
Not once did I put a lens on in film school. How does that even happen? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm thinking about all the stuff we've had to learn on set years ago. Even just proper ways to transfer data. DIT. Like there's so many little things that would be super helpful to position you into. And let's face it, kind of a freelance position world, right? Where you're like, oh, I do want to work, and that's why I think the industry has changed so much, and the universities have to catch up to that.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, it was a different ball game when you got out in 09 and in 2017 and 2023. It's a different world, right? And so, if there were students coming out of film school that already had all of that experience for being a first AC or even camera team, it would be huge, right? And I love our interns from UNT, and we have a internship program with UNT and a few other schools where we're able to start giving them on-set experience, right? And so they're on set and they're learning these processes with us. And so I would definitely say this is something that I did not take advantage of when I was at film school, but look for those internships so you can start,
100%,
one, you're
dude.
getting the theory and the knowledge and some practical,
Yeah.
right? Some hands-on, but it's very limited and sometimes very outdated.
Yeah.
Could be because of the gear, could be because of your professor, right?
Yeah.
Even me, if I was teaching a film class, like I haven't touched a camera in a while or editing suite, so I'm outdated, right? So
Right.
that's part on the professor to keep up to
Right.
date with it.
And there are very limited professors there that are still in the field. Granted, there are a handful, and those are like the ones that you want to latch onto because they're up with the times.
Right. Yeah. And again, theory is theory. And some of the professors that I had were so great at teaching that. And I eat
Yeah.
that stuff up. I love all of that. But again, that hands-on experience, I think, comes from an internship program with
Yeah.
a production company. If you really want to get
Yeah.
hands-on with the current tools and systems of a film company, whether that is commercial or narrative, and again, the opportunities exist now with studios. Actually, we've got Yellowstone that was shot out past Weatherford. We have Capernaum Studios that they shot Washington's Armor, and they Dallas Jenkins, The
1883.
Chosen is shot out there. So there's a lot of film opportunities now that do come through, and to get connected on those narrative sets or get connected with production companies. But yeah, going back to the shortcomings, the broad knowledge is 50-50 for me because I enjoyed it so much and it did change a lot of things
Yeah.
for me. But the shortcoming of not having that very focused and hands-on experience is definitely detrimental and slows down your access to make real money in the industry when you graduate.
Yep. Another thing for me, one, I wish I did an internship program while I was there. They highly encouraged it, and I was like, I don't have the time. I'll teach myself. But I do, like, if you are in film school, I would highly recommend doing the internship thing. But one thing so this is my specific journey, and I think it was kind of yours too. My first 2 years, I opted to take my basics and get those all out of the way. Like, let's just do high school 2.0 right off the rip. Let's get it going. And so I took all my basics because I just front loaded it like that. And that was a huge mistake for me because by the time I got to my junior year, I had to take all my prerequisite classes in one year. It was like almost a year of basic prereq and like basic classes and film history and this, that, and the other. So I didn't actually get a camera put in my hands until my senior year of college. So in my 4-year film program, I got 1 year of camera experience.
Wow.
And so that was like, I was really struggling with that, where I was like, man, this was, instead of like having 4 years of gradually learning a little bit over time and soaking up that knowledge, it was like a concentrated year of 1 of 4 where I actually was learning film.
So I think it was even worse. I didn't have the option, and I could be remembering this wrong, but back, 2005 when I started going to UNT, and I would have the 2 years left because same thing. I front loaded. I did all of the core classes. I think I had some left over that I had to knock out in my last 2 years at UNT, and they, I had to have a certain amount of hours before I could even get into those prereqs.
Right.
And so they did kind of cram all of the good stuff, you would say, right?
Yes.
In 2 years. And to your point, you didn't really get into the advanced stuff until last year.
Yeah.
And at this point, you're older, you're working hard to pay your college education. You might have an apartment, you might have car, bills. And so that's where I was in the same boat. Like, internships weren't even an option for me, even if there were, and they did encourage them, but I was like, with what time? Like, I'm working, I'm going to school, and then you've got your projects or homework that you would have to do outside of school.
Yeah. One good thing that film schools offer that I did not take advantage of, though, is like the short film club that they have there. Like, it gives you an opportunity to get connected with people who are making films outside of school and who are hungry enough to take on extracurricular like film projects. And I feel like I would have gotten more experience just doing the short film club at school, which again I didn't take advantage of. Um, but some of the extracurricular opportunities to connect with filmmakers and make passion projects and stuff like that, I always feel are going to be some of your best work because you're going to pour the most into your passion projects versus like a homework assignment school project. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like at that time, even being passionate about wanting to learn film, it's like, oh, here's this homework assignment where I have to make this project that I still really don't want to work on, and
You're not passionate
I'm
about
not
it, and you're
passionate
not,
about it.
you're doing it for the grade. You're
Right.
not doing it for
Right.
the portfolio work or for the passion
Exactly.
of the project. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. I think about all my college videos that I made, and I'm not proud of any of
No.
them. I'm
No.
like, I don't even know where they are, to be honest, and I don't know if I would ever show them if we
Yeah.
do
They're
find it.
cringy. They're
Yeah.
cringy. Yeah.
But then I think about like some stuff that I made with friends or that I was passionate about. Those were the
Mhm.
projects that you were stoked on. You were
Right.
ready to show people as your showcase. So I'll say this though, I'm going to just throw a couple advantages
Yeah.
for film school.
Yep.
And so I taught for a semester or two at the King's University, and I taught post-production course, right? Like
Yeah.
the beginner level. So I was teaching a lot of theory.
Yep.
And it was really interesting to see, a freshman. And so I think they were, there was a couple freshmen that were coming in, I believe, and they had the ability to kind of learn at the early stages is if they're interested in editing, right?
Right.
And so that's where theory was really important. The other advantage, so one,
But you
it
were
can,
also teaching practical theory application.
correct, that's true. And the other thing was that it kind of helps you narrow your field.
Yeah.
And I was teaching theory that you could actually utilize and execute. With even timeline reviews and that kind of thing. But the advantage was some of these students didn't have access, right, to
Right.
gear or even the software,
Even software, yeah.
Premiere, that kind of thing.
Which
And
the
so
university provides for free.
so again, back to almost the gear rental thing, the access to gear, like we need the gear to be better, but the access to software, the access to computer stations. When I was going to film school, I didn't have a computer, so
Yeah.
I would go up to the editing suites to do my
Yeah.
editing for the projects,
Yeah.
right? So
Which a lot of students do.
right, and so that's huge. We have some interns that that would go up and
Yeah.
use the computers there because of the access to Premiere.
Right.
And so I think that's huge. So I think the benefits are there for that, and then the networking factor.
I was getting into it right
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
That's
Well,
the biggest piece.
you did
man.
networking right, so I want to jump to you on that. I regret that I didn't. I was connected. I'm still connected with a few
Yeah.
of the people from '09 when we graduated, and
Yeah.
even the people like '06 when I should have graduated. But the difference is, I didn't seek out to do more projects with those people. It was
Right.
more like friendships and not professional networking.
Yeah.
So I want to hear kind of your networking experience because I
Mhm.
think that's going to be the most knowledge that somebody in film school right now. Like, what did you
Yeah.
start doing to create that network
Totally.
in film school and then even after?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, one of the best things that film school will give you is networking opportunities. And you can either make the most of that or you can, not take advantage of that. But you will, in my opinion, get significantly more out of the networking opportunities than you will an education on how to be a filmmaker. That is my personal opinion. In my time there, I was very intentional about connecting with professors, even who I thought would be advantageous to me, like post graduation. And so the professors that were in the field at the time who had production companies and whatnot, I made sure to take all of their classes. I got connected with them post graduation. people who were opening up doors for me while I was there. Like I got a chance to meet Casey Neistat as a college student, which was super dope. He came and spoke to like 25 people who were film students. And because I was connected with certain professors, they got me in the seat to where I got like a private VIP one-on-one like time with Casey Neistat, which was super tight. And shout out Casey Neistat.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. The other piece of that is I remember when they had like panelists come in to like speak to us as students and whatnot. I was super intentional about meeting with the panelists that I felt like I could connect with, which ultimately wound up getting me some of my very first like freelance jobs with another production company. Shout out Micah. We're going to have him on the podcast soon.
Yeah.
But I remember meeting Micah as one of like the panelist speakers, and like he started getting me jobs like right out of school as a freelancer. And so part of my income was predicated on how much I networked with other people at film school. And so that was cool. And then not even to mention all of the students that were there. I have a ton of lifelong friends that I met that were filmmakers in the program. I have people that have given me job referrals that I met at the program, people that I hire out to be crew on our projects. One of my friends went on to work for Adobe, and now they give me like the friends and family discount, and I get my Adobe whole Creative Cloud for $120 a year.
Oh, I hope Adobe's not listening right
Yeah,
now.
shout out Adobe. You got to be one of the friends and fam. You know what I'm saying? But like all these different like connections that I built with students and professors at that time are some of the like big stepping stones to help me build my career. And not even mentioning the biggest one of them all is I got to meet you through an alumni association. And so cool backstory on just how Shane and I met. I graduated from film school, and because I had networked with certain professors and whatnot, they got me connected in a Facebook alumni group that isn't like anyone who is a UNT alum gets access to this. It's like I don't want to call it like a special like deal, but it is kind of an invite only. Like you have to know about it and be like welcome to it. But there's an entire network of UNT alum people who are in the industry and other UNT alum students. And in that Facebook group, job offerings like freelance listings are posted. And so right out of college, I get connected into this Facebook alumni group. And the very first person that I see is this cat by the name of Shane Reitzammer, who is looking for somebody to help him shoot a project. And I shoot him a DM, and I was like, hey, here's my gear list. Here's some work that I've done. Love to be on this with you. And the rest is history. And my entire career has been built off of the relationship that I made by being an alumni at a university where Shane and I may have never met had I not gone to UNT and he not gone to UNT, and our paths collided.
That's true. Yeah, big shout out to UNT for
Yeah.
forming the powerhouse that
Absolutely.
is Cinema Story now to
Boom,
this
boom.
day. And on my side, right, as a employer at the time, I was looking for more filmmakers as we were
Right.
growing, and I needed more shooters, editors, even. And so that was one of the things I remembered and went back to and said, well, I want to hire UNT alumni.
Yeah.
And so I posted in that group. And like you said, the rest is history. And so definitely networking, even when you're out of it, like you're talking about hiring people for crews,
Totally.
we do that to this day. So yeah, I think one of the biggest things you can do in film school and in a classical education is the networking piece. And I regret that I didn't do it more. And it's so important, right? The relationship aspect in this industry is huge. And so establishing those, and then, man, I loved hearing how active you were, like going after the panelist, connecting with the professors, and fellow students, and then getting involved in groups, man. Those forums are huge. They're there for a reason, and it might be crickets for a long time, but all you need is that one connection, right?
And that's like the funniest piece of the whole thing is the very first person that I ever responded to on that Facebook alumni deal was you, and it changed the course of my life. And since then, I have gotten zero leads from that besides you. And so, like, you may never know. Like, it may be, like you said, crickets all the way for X amount of time, but then you meet that one person that changes the entire rest of your career. And, I got mentorship from that, opportunities that I never would have gotten to actually get into the field, to work with clients, to, shoot with someone who is more experienced than me. And I got to just learn and have financial opportunities and just job opportunities to hone my craft better because of the networking piece that I did.
You got to be in the room, right?
Got to be in the
You got to be
room.
in the room. You got to pay to play. You've got to be active.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
great, man. I love that story.
The other thing that film was really cool about film school is just like the collaborative efforts that you got to make with other filmmakers. Like even one of our like go-to editors, Avery, who we've utilized for years, like I met in film school. And if you listen to one of the previous podcasts, I taught her Final Cut back in the day. So
That's another point for Final Cut.
another point for Final Cut.
Score it on the comment board.
Yeah. But anyway, like I met some people, like a handful of people that are lifelong friends, and I've tended weddings with, and they're good friends of mine now. From my networking time there, and then just collaborating on other projects where like pre working at a university, everything that I did was just me figuring out myself. And so you learn the hard way alone, you like study alone. But like when you work with other people, you get other creative ideas. Your mind opens up to what the collaborative process can be like in a group setting versus isolated.
And I have to throw this in because I feel like while we're talking about networking in our internship program,
Yeah.
if you want to work at Cinema Story, I feel like you have to know Joey, because Joey goes to the Kickstarter at UNT.
Yeah.
And we have put out, internship calls on different universities. But we love UNT because we both graduated
we do
from there.
love UNT.
And so, I think we just did a Kickstarter. We've got 16 interns that are interested in working at Cinema Story, and obviously we can't support 16, but we will do our best. So if you want to be a part of Cinema Story,
shameless plug, right?
Make sure you have to know Joey, because I'm going back to like you brought in Avery, you brought in Sutton, you brought in so many of our filmmakers, and it's because they knew you, and I'm like Joey. Man, we need another editor. We need another. Who do you know? Who do you know?
It's not
he's
about
used his network Rolodex, and a lot of that is from film school.
Yeah, it's not about what you know, but who you know, for sure. And film school, you'll meet hundreds of people who, 98% of them you may never, see again or talk to or keep up with, but the 2% that you meet will change the rest of your life, and it's super cool.
Can I ask you a question then? This is the big one then. So ultimately, what is your recommendation? If somebody were to ask you, should I go to film school? I'm interested in film.
Yeah.
Should I go to film school?
I think it depends, right? So I think it depends on the type of person you are and the type of learner that you are. I know a lot of people that need motivation to learn the craft, right? Like they need the fact that they're paying, $50,000 to go to school to motivate them. They need the fact that there's a homework assignment to motivate them. Maybe they need an employer or someone to motivate them. But if you are a self-motivated person and you love the craft and you know the direction that you want to go down, I don't think you need film school. And here's the reason why. Not one time in my career has anybody asked me for my degree. And not one time in my career have I asked anybody else for their degree. The portfolio that you stand upon is 100% what is going to get you jobs as a filmmaker, period. Nobody is going to ask you for your degree unless maybe you go into the broadcast space. And then even then, I really feel like your credentials that follow you are going to speak much louder than the degree that you have in your back pocket.
Yeah, when we hire somebody, what I want to see is their CV or their resume, right?
Yeah.
I want to see their experience. I'm
Right.
looking for experience. I don't, like, oh, cool, you graduated from XYZ university. That's good. Like
Yeah.
it shows that you can, do homework and get through a
Right.
system, but I don't put much weight in that. I look at how many projects have you
How
been
well do
on?
you write an email to me when you're looking for a job?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And what is attached in that
Oh,
email?
big, 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 big thing. If you send your resume, make sure it's a PDF and not
Never
an
a Word
edible
doc.
Word doc. I'm sorry, but I don't even open the Word docs. If it's a Word
No.
doc, you're
Disqualified.
disqualified.
See you later,
Disqualified.
buddy.
Send a PDF. Just a little professional advice there
Yep.
for any person looking for a
Yeah.
job. Send a uneditable PDF. Okay.
Yeah.
But back to the discussion of, um, my thoughts on, is it worth? I'm with you.
Yeah.
It depends, right? It really depends. I think it depends on not only the person but also the
Yeah.
film school, right?
Right.
So
That's also true.
research the film school. There are a lot of great film schools and accessibility, right? Like
Right.
I'll be honest on this podcast. I wanted to go to the University of Texas. I wanted to go to UT. They had a better film program at the
Yeah.
time, and debatable, maybe
Yeah.
still do. But what I could afford was University of North Texas.
Yeah.
And I went there. And I'm so glad I did. I'm going to say that I love UNT. I love
Yeah.
my college education experience.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that a lot of this can be taught either in a vocational school where you can get a very hyper focused education that is practical, that
Yeah.
you can then enter the job force, the job market now because it has changed,
Yeah.
or you can self teach if
Right.
you're highly self motivated and you are very extroverted and you can
Right.
network. Okay. So I will go back to
Yeah.
film school is for a lot of people.
Right. Right.
I think you can do it without film school, but
Yep,
you are
that's a
going
good
to
point.
you're going to be the 10%. Remember that thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's for the 10% that will self
Yeah.
apply the discipline and the strategy of how to get connected,
Yeah.
how to get mentorships, how to get your foot in the door. Because even think about, like I didn't look at your degree, but I picked you up from the UNT alumni thing.
Right. Right.
I had a lot of other, people send me resumes and stuff and experience, but one of the little hooks was that you were a UNT alumni.
Right.
And so that's kind of interesting to look back and think
Yeah.
about it, right? So there, but could you have showed me a really dope reel and a body of work and I would have been like,
Yeah.
dude, you're hired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely debatable. But I might not have been even fishing in that pool
Right.
and found you that way. So I'm so 50. I mean, even TKU, they have a good program that they're starting up.
Right.
There's value to it depending on the person and depending on the your abilities and that film school and what they can
Right.
offer and its proximity sometimes, right?
Right.
Like Sam Houston back then, like didn't even have a film school. They had like maybe some sort of media
Yeah,
program. That's where my family they wanted me to stay close. And I was like, I'm not going there. That's not even gonna get me in the door in
Right.
the industry.
Yeah.
And so
Well, and I'll echo what you said too about I'm grateful that I did the time there. But one of the big things that, in my opinion, moved the needle for me was the financial aspect of it, right? So at that time, I got a full ride scholarship plus a little bit of gravy on top, which was nice, which I used to invest in my first camera and I built my career on.
look at this guy.
Yeah. Do well in high school, ladies and gentlemen. But no, seriously though, like if somebody is in a position where maybe they don't have a full ride and they're looking at accumulating like 40 to 50,000 plus dollars in debt to go to film school, and that's not even if you go to like UCLA, right? Or NYU or one of the bigger like film schools. Full Sail was like another one that was big at the time, which their program looks super cool. The marketing was fire. But if you're considering going and dropping that bag on film school so that you can make money as a filmmaker, I don't think that it is a necessary thing for you to spend that kind of money and get in that level of debt so that you can break into the industry. That's the biggest thing for me. If you want to go get a film like degree, and you have opportunities that are in front of you that like scholarships are going to help you out, or you've done well in high school, or you have these extracurricular things that you can do that's going to give you money to where it's like minimal debt when you graduate. That's also a big thing to consider versus like, oh, now I'm graduated, I have 50K plus in debt over my head, and I'm trying to go, be a filmmaker and a starving artist to, break into the game.
Well, and here is one condition on that too. So where that film degree is going to come into play, and I almost did this when I graduated, when I decided to go do international documentary instead of taking a $90,000 job. You bring your dog to work day,
Yeah.
all this cool perks. It was a medical company, and they wanted an in-house video producer.
Yeah.
And I turned that down to go film for free an international documentary and kept down the freelance life, which ended up paying off. Right. But the if you're looking for a corporate America job and you want to be a video producer at I don't know, Fossil or any kind of, smaller even company, and you're looking for that steady, secured income with benefits, and you're looking for a 60 to 100 and $100,000+ job, you will need that degree, because when they post those jobs, they do want to see a degree.
And
now,
that's
if you're
the
going to
thing.
the freelance industry, right, or creating your own media production company, that's where you don't need any of that.
100%.
You don't need that.
100%. Yeah. So your goals really ultimately determine what path you should take, and, your financial position. Like, do you have some support from your folks? Do you, there's a lot of things that I would say it's not a direct yes or no answer, but to Shane's point, if you are looking to be a freelancer or not work for the man, then I do not think that you need a degree. I think you need to hone your craft.
Beautiful. Well said. Man.
Anything else you want to add to this, man? I feel like we touched on a lot of topics.
Yeah, brought up a lot of memories. I know we're like probably way over time, but I'm not going to say rapid fire round, but I have a question. I have what's your favorite film school story that you can share in like 30 to 60 seconds?
Favorite film school story. I got a couple that I can't share.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'll start. I'll let you think. Okay,
let me think on that.
I'm in the studio at UNT for the NTTV, I guess. And there was a tripod that was set up. We were doing a class, and we were supposed to, all rotate and take turns on the different positions. And there's a tripod that is set up with a really expensive camera. And one of the students steps away, and I think it was like a cable thing where it pulled, or they didn't set it up right. I'm sitting, like, we're waiting for the professor to come back because we were supposed to set up the gear and then we're going to do the next thing. And so I'm sitting and I dive and catch this camera that fell. And so you're welcome, UNT. I caught it. And of course, the professor wasn't even in there. And all the other students were like, oh, that was awesome. The other students, like turning red because he realized that it was about to be destroyed. And so that was like my heroic story. And then the professor came in and they were like, you should have seen it. He just caught it. And he was like, oh, okay. All right. So, and I felt so defeated, like right afterwards. Dang. I was like, do I get a bonus point?
Right? Yeah. Like automatic A. All right. So I'm about to embarrass myself super hard right now, but it is going to be strictly for the fans and the ratings. But I actually have an audio segment snippet still on my phone that's in my iTunes that I am about to play that nobody has ever heard up until this point. And my face is turning red if you can see me in the studio right now. But this is a radio broadcast spot that I made as a college student for a pizza commercial. and at the time, I was a hip hop artist, for those that don't know. And me and my bros, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this into my bro studio. And I laid down an auto-tune record
Let's
of a
hear
pizza
this.
commercial.
Let's hear this.
Oh, what's on TV? Joey's Pizza, Joey's Pizza. Come on down and get a piece of pizza. It's got extra sauce and it's deep dish with double pepperoni and no sardine fish at Joey's Pizza, Joey's Pizza. Come on down and get a piece of pizza. Oh, I got a call right now. Call 1-800-PIZZA and get 2 for the price of 1. Limited offers now available. Restrictions may apply.
You're literally sitting on gold. I think somebody is gonna call and be like,
Oh my gosh,
dude, I'm ready to start a pizza business
Dude,
right now. We already got the
I've been
commercial
needing
spot.
to make a music video to that for so long. I
let's
need
do
to
it.
like be at like a kitchen and have like pizzas that are on like a DJ table and just be like Joey's Pizza, man.
Dude, that was quality work, man.
Right?
Love
Like
it.
I crushed everybody in that class with that project, and I played it for the class, and like everyone was like super boring and basic, and I turned that on and I turned my spot into a song with auto tune, and it was like the best moment in class. And so that's
What did you
that's a
get on
highlight.
that project?
Oh, 110, bro. I got extra credit.
Yeah. Wow, where's my bonus point for saving the
Oh, yeah.
camera?
Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't take the right class, man.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Anyways, so that was I'm like got a tear in my eye. It was so funny.
That's
I can't
good.
believe I just played that for the podcast.
Yeah, for people that are only listening to the audio version, check out the YouTube version because you can see Joey and Shane
my
dancing
gosh.
to this spot.
Yeah, that was
that
good.
was greatness. Awesome.
Wow. Was not expecting that on this episode,
Yeah.
but shout out to Film School for Joey's Pizza commercial.
Sweet. Joey, how do people get connected with us?
Yeah, man. So if you guys want to get connected with us, one, we would love to talk with you, especially if you are considering film school for your own journey. If you have questions that are specifically tailored to you, want advice, or just want to get connected in general, hit us up at the Rough Cut Club on all platforms. Be sure to leave a like and review on our podcast channel too as we continue to grow this thing. We'd love for you guys to leave a rating on this if you're enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, don't leave a rating.
Yeah. Hey, and what I would love to hear too, and maybe they can drop it in the comments on
Yeah,
YouTube or DM us directly at the Rough Cut Club or our individual. But what do people want to hear next on this
yeah.
podcast? And who should we interview next? I know recently we just interviewed our first guest on the
Yep.
podcast, and we plan to do that way more often moving forward. So we'll still be covering great topics in the film industry. One that we'll be filming soon is advancing in the film career, which I
Yep.
think is super important for those who did the starting in the filmmaker industry and even want to level up your craft. But I would love to know who in the local DFW market and then even beyond should be on the show
Yep.
next. Comment, DM us those people, their handles, and then also a topic that you have or a question that you
Yeah.
have that maybe Joey or I could answer in all things art and business of filmmaking.
I love it, bro. Yeah, if you have any questions or know of anyone who would be a good guest, let us know because we want to connect with you guys, answer questions, and then also connect with other filmmakers who are crushing it around the U.S. And beyond. So, Shane, great episode, man.
Great, man.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of The Rough Cut Club.